Today, we're gonna go over how to turn a pullover hoodie into a zip-up hoodie. So we are going to add a separating zipper to an existing hoodie. This method is going to be super easy. Anybody can do this. All you need is a sewing machine. And if you don't have a sewing machine, you can actually hand sew this as well. But either way, I'm going to go over this step by step so that way you can convert your pullover hoodies into a zip-up. Speaking of hoodies, I have an online sewing club and a new pattern comes out every single month. And this month is the hoodie pattern. You can create a zip-up, you can create a pullover, you can turn it into a windbreaker, you can make a hoodie dress. The options are endless. And along with videos showing you how to make the hoodie, sew it up, there's also pattern drafting videos so that way you can customize the hoodie to your style. The great thing about the sewing club is everything you learn you can apply to upcycling or you can apply it to creating new garments for your wardrobe. So if you're interested, definitely check it out. There's a link down below. And this here is one of the hoodies I made recently. All right, enough talking. Let's turn this pullover into a zip up. Before you start this project, you need to get the proper size length of zipper. So you're gonna have to measure your hoodie. So you need to make sure you're measuring the hoodie from the neck where the hood attaches, so that little V up here, all the way down to the bottom of the rib knit of the hoodie. You might get 18, 22, 24. Hoodies come in all different lengths. So whatever number you get, make sure you buy the same length zipper. And make sure you buy a separating zipper. This will only work with a separating zipper. There are a lot of different types of zippers out there. The first thing we need to do is find center front on the hoodie because we're going to be cutting open center front to add our zipper. Now we need to make sure that we actually cut it at the center and don't throw it off balance too much to the right or to the left. So follow along, let me show you how to find center. To find the center of the hoodie, we're going to use the pocket. I'm going to measure from one end to the other, and I've got 14. So now I'm going to put a little mark here at 7. So if you don't have a pocket to use, you're just going to use the bottom band of your sweatshirt, and you're going to measure from side seam all the way over to side seam right here. And then you can go ahead and find the center that way. I'm using a water-soluble fabric marker, but you can also use regular chalk. You can use a pin or something to mark the spot. Just don't use actual markers on your project. So this one is very specific for fabric and it washes away. So I want to get one more mark on the shirt to make sure that this is straight. I'm going to use the top of the pocket and it is 9, so I'm going to mark at 4.5. If you don't have a top of the pocket, you can measure from underarm to underarm here and find center. So if I was going to do that, my underarm to underarm here is about 21, so I'm gonna go ahead and mark at 10.5. So I could just line up the ruler from the bottom all the way up to the top, but that extra center mark, just make sure that we're going to have a nice straight centered zipper. So now we're going to connect the spots. So from the bottom, we're gonna draw it down through the pocket, connecting that dot, and now top of the pocket to the center of the hoodie up here. And now that line is the center of our hoodie. Now that we have the center marked, it's time to cut right down that line. We're gonna cut our hoodie in half. When you're cutting, we're just gonna follow this line and just make sure you're going through one layer. Make sure you're not going through both layers of your hoodie. And just like that, we have cut our hoodie in half. Now it's time to add the zipper. To attach the zipper, we are going to unzip it, separate it completely from the bottom, and now we're going to flip over one side, and when we're attaching it, we need to make sure that the teeth are not at center front. And we're going to line this up and pin it down. Now at the top, you're gonna notice you have extra zipper tape beyond this little stopper here. I want the stopper to go all the way to the top, right under the neckline here. Now don't worry about this extra piece here, we're gonna deal with that later. So we are going to line up the edge of the zipper tape with the edge of the hoodie. Now, if you do have a serger, you can serge this edge first, but you don't have to. It's not going to fray on you. So we are just going to pin this all the way down. Sometimes I like to come to the bottom, add a pin down here, and then go ahead. Sometimes you need to give it just like a little bit of a pull to situate it into the seam. Now I'm all pinned up and ready to sew. To sew it down, we're going to be using a straight stitch and we're going to sew right in the center of the zipper tape. So just make sure you're sewing in the center of the zipper tape here, all the way down, from the top all the way down to the bottom. So I'm gonna start at the bottom. You can also start at the top. I'm just gonna be using my regular foot. I'm gonna move my needle position over just a little bit. So my needle is gonna be at center and I've set my stitch length to 3. After you get it moving, don't forget to backstitch. And we're just gonna work our way all the way up to the top. And while you're doing this, just make sure that that zipper tape stays over there by the edge of the fabric. Take out your pins before you get to them so they're not in your way. When you get up to the top of the zipper, come all the way up, add a few back stitches, and take out your project. Now that we have that stitch going all the way down the zipper, we're going to take the zipper and we're going to flip it so that way the teeth now are at center front. And then we're going to add a top stitch all the way down center front, stitching down the zipper so it looks just like that. And you might be wondering what a top stitch is. It's a straight stitch that's 1/4 inch away from an edge. So we're going to be using this edge of the fabric here and we're going to be stitching 1/4 inch away onto this side here. It's gonna look just like the top stitch here on my hoodie I have on, tucking under the seam. This is gonna tuck the zipper in and hold it flat at the front. We're gonna be starting at the bottom when we start sewing, but when we get to the top, we have to deal with this flap here at the top of the zipper. We've got a few different options here. So you can take it and just like flip it down. So that way when it flips back, it's going to catch right there. Or what you can do is kind of flip it down and around like the top of the hood right here. So that way when you flip it back, it's gonna be caught under the seam here. So this little piece will be under the piece of fabric. It's really up to you how you want to do this. The easiest thing to do is just kind of hold it out of the way and then go ahead and top stitch down. Before we start sewing this section, I've got a great tip for you. So when you start sewing, it's going to be really bulky because we have all those extra layers folded on top of each other. And especially when you get to that pocket, entrance and exit, it's gonna be really bulky. You might need to do this, you might not, but it's going to be extra helpful if you're having trouble sewing over parts like the pocket. And that tip is to use the hump jumper. It looks something like this. Should have came with your sewing machine or it should be in your sewing kit. So we are going to use this to help level out our foot so we can get over those bulky seams. You're going to see me using this when I'm sewing that next step of the zipper. If you don't have one of these, you can actually fold up some cardboard or some fabric the same thickness that you're trying to go over. And then your sewing foot's just gonna glide right over that bulky fabric. It's gonna be starting towards the bottom edge. It's gonna be pretty bulky, so you might need to put like a hump jumper. You could fold a piece of cardboard and put it back there. You need the foot on the machine to be level in order for it to take off properly. And I've got it lined up with the 1/4 inch on the foot. And if you don't know where that's at, just use a ruler or seam guide so that way you're sewing 1/4 inch away from that edge. And now come a few stitches forward, add your back stitches. And if your hump jumper moved out or your piece of cardboard slipped away, just slip it back under there so that way you can continue forward. And now you're just gonna work your way all the way down the zipper. And again, the zipper tape is flipped towards the jacket. And we're gonna be stitching through all the layers. When you get to some of these seams, they're gonna be really thick, so go slow. And again, if you need to use your hump jumper, don't be afraid to use it. Come all the way up to the top. Make sure you're adding your back stitches, just 2. Continue so that way you can end where you left off at the end. And take it out, let's take a look. Now we're gonna do the exact same thing to the other side. And because you've done one side, you essentially know everything we're going to do to the other side. So we're gonna take the zipper, we're gonna flip it over and make sure that the zipper tape is at the edge of the fabric, and then we're going to pin it down and just make sure you're lining it up in the same spot you did on the other side. We're all pinned up, but there is one extra step. We need to check and make sure that the pocket is lined up with the zipper. So now we're gonna zip up the zipper and double check that we lined it up properly. So now I'm just going to zip it up with the pins in it. And what we wanna do is double check that at the bottom here, the rib knit line is going to line up, and that up here that the pocket is going to line up. And it looks like they're both going to line up, so we're good. If it was off a little bit, you just need to readjust your pins and your pinning and then zip it up again until you get it to line up. But since it's lined up, it's time to sew. So again, we're just stitching right down center. And when this zipper pull gets in the way, you're gonna leave your needle and lift up your foot and then just zip it out of the way. Back stitch at the end. So I have my zipper folded under like I did before, and this time I'm starting at the top so I can keep the bulk of my hoodie out to the left. And I've got that little tab at the top folded under as well. Don't forget your back stitches. And we're going to continue all the way down. Back stitch at the end. And we are done. We've completed our hoodie. We now have a zipper going right down center front. We've got our two pockets in the front for our zip up hoodie, and it's looking beautiful. So exciting. Now you can take all your pullovers and turn them into zip ups. In this tutorial, you learned how to find the center of your hoodie so that way it's not lopsided, and how to put in that separating zipper, and making sure that you line up the top of your pocket and the top of your rib knit at the bottom. Plus, what to do with those little tabs at the top of the zipper. So if you just go cutting off things up there, your zipper might fall apart. And we also learned the importance of top stitching down that zipper. So now you are ready to turn your pullovers into zip-ups. If you have any questions, leave them down below and I'll get back with you as soon as I can. If you enjoyed the video today, make sure you give it a thumbs up. And if you like sewing Anastasia, make sure you subscribe, like, and hit that notification bell so you know when the new videos come out. And if you're already a subscriber, thank you so much for watching today. These videos are for you guys. And if you're doing any upcycling, make sure you tag me. I would love to repost them on my Instagram and share your creativity with everyone. And if you'd like to learn more about sewing, make sure you check out my Chicago in-person classes and my online sewing classes and the sewing club. There's links down below for everything. And if you want to know what's going on in the studio, well, make sure you jump on my Instagram. Thank you so much for watching today. Bye.